Bienvenidos a un programa más de la serie. Hoy en Adelante, los candidatos a concejal del Distrito 12 de la ciudad de Milwaukee, Witkowiak y José Perez, tienen la oportunidad de convencer al electorado sobre quién los puede representar mejor y solucionar los retos que enfrentan los residentes de este distrito localizado al lado sur de la ciudad. Este programa no es un debate. Esta entrevista es una oportunidad para que los candidatos presenten a la audiencia el plan que utilizarían si fueran elegidos para solucionar los asuntos planteados a través de cada pregunta. Cada candidato tendrá el mismo tiempo para responder. El año pasado, una coalición de latinos abogaron frente a la ciudad de Milwaukee para asegurarse de que al menos 2 distritos de los que iban a ser creados reflejaran el crecimiento de la población latina. De acuerdo con la ciudad de Milwaukee, la población que ocupa el Distrito 8 está conformada por un 62% de latinos en edad de votar, mientras que la que ocupa el Distrito 12 se conforma de un 67.8% de latinos votantes. En adelante, nos preocupamos por presentar información a la comunidad latina que va a ser afectada por las próximas elecciones del 3 de abril. Candidate Witkowiak, Candidate Perez, thank you very much for being with us on Adelante.
Gracias.
Buenos días.
This will be our first question, and it is, you are both candidates for one of 2 districts that have been created with a majority of Latinos of voting age. If elected in this aldermanic district, how do you plan to advocate for equal and greater resources for all residents and for Latinos in particular?
Well, thank you for that question. I've been alderman of the district for 16 out of the last 20 years, and I have paid special attention to the needs of the Latinos because I understand when people come in from another part of the world, and then all of a sudden they're in the city of Milwaukee, and you have a building inspection department, and you have licenses, and you have permits, and you have fees, and oftentimes they don't understand this. So a lot of people have open businesses, for example, and they'll rent a store, and they just clean it up and get some inventory and open up, and then the weight of the city comes down on them, and they said, you need a permit, you need an occupancy permit, you need a license, you need this, you need that. Over my time as alderman, I've paid very special attention to our small businesses, especially to the Latino community. I've actually done a lot of their paperwork for them and walked them through that, so that they will be able to understand the rules and regulations and grow and prosper in our neighborhood. I've also worked very closely with all of the community-based organizations. At one time, every community-based organization that represented Latinos was headquartered in the 12th district. I worked very hard to make sure that they got their fair share of block grant money to help assist them in programs that assist our Latino constituency.
What will be, Mr. Perez, your take in the same question?
Well, having worked for the Department of City Development for 4 years, we don't have enough resources in the city to address those issues. We don't have enough bilingual staff. We don't have enough folks that actually are in the community and knocking door to door in commercial corridors and working with enough residents to make sure that the resources are available to them. So there's a slight disconnect between what is happening and what we have. The Latino community, we have several nonprofit organizations that are providing services for whether they're social services or business development, and they are overwhelmed and beyond capacity and need more help to assist our community. And so I think that I would advocate for not only if elected, my office doing more to be in the neighborhood and to do door-to-door, not only with residents but with businesses. But we need for folks to walk in to some of our departments and be able to get more information. We do have some things translated, but not enough, and we don't have enough staff to handle the diversity of our neighborhood because although Latinos are the majority, we do have several other ethnic groups that don't feel that the city reflects their communities.
Our second question will be to you, Mr. Perez. A majority of residents in this aldermanic district are Latinos who may not speak and understand English. For example, there are public schools in your area with as many as 60% of Latinos that speak absolutely no English. Which means that they come from homes dominant in Spanish. How do you plan to communicate with this constituency? How do you plan to address the language and cultural realities of this population?
Well, I plan on taking advantage of all the technology we currently have. Most people have a cell phone. We have internet access at schools, at libraries, and I plan on using those resources to help communicate and get information. I also want to ensure that the translation of documents, whether they be on city websites, the Aldermanic website, that they're translated, that there's enough of those pieces of information translated, but they're done professionally. I know when I worked at the city, I'd get a phone call to translate, and it wasn't something that either I did or should be doing, and we want to make sure that those services are provided, there's funds for that, and that they're beyond most ethnic communities. And so we want to increase the availability of second and third language documents available for our residents. And the other thing is building very strong relationships, as much information as you can put out there in writing without the community feeling that they're connected to a employee or someone that works for the city that you can actually connect to. They won't take advantage of it.
Mr. Witkowiak, what will be your response to that question?
Well, you know, I've run a business on Mitchell Street for over 40 years, and language has never been an impediment. Everyone on my staff is bilingual, and I was actually the first person at City Hall to get things translated into Spanish. For example, we have these booklets that we give out to people. It's called Call for Action. And it gives the numbers of departments direct where people can call in and report something. I was the first person to have those translated to Spanish. I also brought on Spanish translators for people that would come to City Hall for meetings, be it a license meeting, a zoning meeting, an appeals meeting. I was a person that got the city to supply them an interpreter. I think it's extremely important that that there's bilingual staff always available to help these people, because sometimes even though a lot of Latinos in the neighborhood are bilingual, but they understand the language of Spanish better. And although I understand Spanish to an extent, I'm not comfortable enough to speak it. But I've never had a problem in all the years serving the Latino community because of a language barrier. And I was the first person at City Hall to start getting things translated and reaching out to the Hispanic community.
Well, your time is up. Do you plan to hire bilingual and bicultural staff in your city and community-based offices?
Yes. My staff at City Hall now is bilingual. My staff in my office on Mitchell Street is bilingual, and it will continue to be. And all of the printings that we put out, if they're in English and somebody wants them in Spanish, we can translate them. I have a certified translator working for me besides the people that just know the language. So fluent in both English and Spanish, in both reading and writing, and that will continue into the future.
Mr. Perez, will you be willing to to face this reality of Latinos who need bilingual assistance and also bicultural assistance?
Yes, I plan on doing a very thorough search for the right person for the district, and would like that person to be very fluent in Spanish and possibly be dominant in Spanish. And for instance, when we talk about materials, I was told that I was the first city employee to have a card that was bilingual, English on one side and Spanish on the other. That had never been done before.
Good. As a city alderman, will you be voting on appointments to boards and commissions? And you will exert influence on other important appointments. How will you ensure that more Latinos are appointed to boards, committees? How will you ensure diversity and make it an integral part of your tenure in this position?
Well, I plan on being very thorough about reaching out to all the corners of the district, and to make sure that we have engaged people. And you know, I think being Latino is important, but we have to have people who are engaged in our district to be considered for boards and appointments, that know what's going on, know what the issues are working on these issues, and not based on a title, working for a company or a business or a nonprofit, but that it is someone who knows and cares about our community, and the appointments have to be based on their passion and willing to work and serve and do the right thing.
What will be your response to this fact?
I've been a strong supporter of getting Latinos appointed to boards and commissions. As a matter of fact, I was one of the strong promoters of Chief Arreola when he was proposed for the police chief job, the first Hispanic police chief in the city of Milwaukee. I also supported the appointments of every Latino for the Fire and Police Commission. And now we have some Latinos on the Board of Zoning Appeals, which I strongly support. And we, again, have to find, a lot of these committees and appointments are, some of them are paid jobs and some of them are not. So we have to reach out to people, perhaps business people or people from the neighborhood that wish to get involved, and see if we can bring those people in, because some of those appointments are not paid. They're volunteered, so it's a donation of time to the city. And I plan to continue to reach out to Latinos for those jobs.
The next question will be, this area of the city is highly concerned with the future of bilingual and bicultural education, greater quality of education, and more Latinos going to college. This seems to be a goal of every organization in the Latino community. Will you actively support these goals and join Latino organizations in their effort to secure better education for their children, youth, and adults?
Absolutely. I'm on record as being a strong supporter for the DREAM Act. I believe that the Latinos here should have the opportunity to go to college, just like somebody, Anglo that was born here. I've also been a great supporter of choice schools. St. Anthony's, which is one of the largest parochial schools in the state of Wisconsin now, right on 5th and Mitchell, has an outstanding program. They were written up in the Wall Street Journal about 2 or 3 years ago as being one of the highest rated academically, one of the highest rated parochial schools in the United States. I supported St. Anthony's starting their own high school, the first new high school in the Catholic Archdiocese since 1972. And the reason was St. Anthony's was graduating so many kids from their grade school, and they couldn't place them in Catholic high schools. The choice program is excellent because it allows, instead of family, if family does not want to send their children to MPS, in the old days they had to move out into a different school district. They had to move to New Berlin, Oak Creek, Franklin to send their kids to different public school. Now they can take a voucher and they can choose to send their child to a choice school, which allows them to stay in Milwaukee. So they get a great education by the choice of the parent where they want to send them. And now they're able to go to high school because we have enough high school capacity. And I support the DREAM Act. I want them all to go to college. Education is the best thing we can do for these kids.
Mr. Perez.
Yes, I support all education in our community. I have a daughter who attends Kosciuszko Montessori, which is right in the neighborhood. I'm on the governance council. I want to secure that the school provides the best education possible, and I think that all schools are needed in the community and that they all should be held to the highest standard. With that said, we should be working closer with the nonprofit organizations and with everyone in the community to ensure we have a high dropout rate in the community, and we need to bring that down. And the only way we're going to work together, the only way we're going to get there is working together.
A comprehensive immigration reform is a major issue for Latinos. As alderman, will you actively support ordinances, school policies, state legislation, and federal legislation that promote the best interest of Latinos affected by their immigration status?
Yes, I would. I would do everything in my power as alderman to support any immigration reform and secure that the resources at the city are working to protect immigrants and not hurting them in any way. I've been working on immigration issues since 2000 as an organizer with Micah and working with Voces a Frontera, and been part of welcoming people from other parts of the state here to Wisconsin and moving with other people to Washington, D.C. and advocating on a local, county, state, and national level for immigration reform. And I'm a strong believer that if you're good enough to work here, you're good enough to live here in peace and tranquility.
Mr. Witkowiak, what is your take on this question?
I'm a little disappointed in the administration, meaning the president's administration, that there has not been a national new immigration reform. That was something that was promised to us during the last election, and I've heard little talk about it. The problem is now we have states that are all making different immigration policies, and it shouldn't be that way. It should. I mean, I have friends that have to go to Washington State to get a driver's license and then come back and just tell people that they're visiting here. It shouldn't be that way. It should be the same. It should be the same policy all throughout the United States. Now, what I've done personally is I've actually gone to immigration court in Chicago for friends of mine to keep families together that were going to be deported, because I believe that if someone has come into this country, they're not breaking any laws, they're not a felon, they're not a criminal, they should be allowed a defined path to get to either permanent residency or citizenry. But we can't, and I also, when the city came up with the city attorney came up with a ordinance that said you had to be a citizen to have a license or a permit, I got it shut down.
Thanks. There is an extensive research that shows that immigrants transform the economic life of a community. The growth of a small Latino business has been one of the most important contributions of Latinos in this district. How will you propose to actively support their expansion and to help Latino small businesses create more jobs in the district? What practices and policies will you advocate as an alderman to ensure that the city and other county and state institutions support Latino small businesses?
I'm glad you brought up that point, because there's probably 50 small Latino businesses in the neighborhood that I have assisted when they got started. Again, like I said, especially if somebody comes from Mexico, there you rent or build a building, you put your sign up and you open your store. There's no health department, there's no neighborhood services, there's no building inspection, there's none of that stuff. Now they come here and they want to open a business. I've assisted countless number of businesses in getting through the red tape, including actually helping them fill out the applications. And in areas where they needed legal counsel or service, I'll call one of my friends who's an attorney and ask him if he could do pro bono work, if he could work for free, work on their applications and help them through the process. I'm a very strong believer that small business is what makes a neighborhood sound. You have to have small business and you have to have good housing stock for the people, and the combination of those two things works. Many years ago, you go back 20 years ago, most of Mitchell Street, Lincoln Avenue was boarded up. Now those areas, Mitchell Street, there's less than 10 vacancies now. Lincoln Avenue is thriving. Cesar Chavez is thriving. All small businesses, most of them owned by Latinos. They employ people and they provide goods and services, and I've helped a lot of those people through all the red tape at City Hall.
Mr. Perez.
Well, I want to bring down the red tape. Working at DCD and working with the programs and providing opportunities for facade grants and RIF grants and signage grants and any resources with even some city financing is just too bureaucratic. It's too long of a process. It's not consistent. And so I want to get in on the front end and be proactive about making that a much smoother process than it is now, create some consistency, and really work with the departments and the people that we have to come out into the community more and to really create some trust and mend fences between the city and a lot of the businesses.
The city clearly needs to work more closely with community-based organizations, developers, economic development organizations, banks, and other financial institutions. What will you actively do to seek more resources to create and implement serious and effective economic development plans? What specifically will you do to create more jobs for your constituents?
Well, one, increase the quality of life. I think that when a neighborhood feels safer and you have better infrastructure, it's easier to attract and retain some of the businesses you have. We don't have a community development corporation on the near south side. We used to have the Walker's Point Development Corp. We had some other organizations, and we haven't seen that economic engine in a nonprofit be there driving and moving and talking and building these relationships. I personally have helped create some new jobs in the neighborhood as I'm helping build a new bank on 16th, on Cesar Chavez and National on the very corner there. And they promise us local jobs from the neighborhood, and we need more catalytic projects like that. We have a couple intersections in the city that just need economic development, and we have to really cheerlead and move forward and promote the district as the best place to do business.
Mr. Witkowiak.
I've worked closely with all of the bankers in the neighborhood, and I've made a lot of introductions to small business people to those bankers, and they have subsequently developed very, very successful relationships. In addition to that, the city has a tool called MEDC, and that's a program where if a business owner goes to a bank and a bank says, we'll give you 80% of the money you need to start this business, we ask MEDC to come in and basically do a second mortgage or second position to get the money that the person needs to get his business going. So I've worked very closely with establishing these relationships and helping the small business owner get the financing that he needs. On the housing side of it, I was actually the one that created the first TIN, that's Target Investment Neighborhood, in our district. And that is a program that for homeowners, we put them through home buyer counseling to make sure that they don't trip and fall once they become a homeowner. And then we get them forgivable loans and grants for things like roofs, gutters, downspouts, siding, windows, doors, front porches. So we help create financial stability for the businesses and also for the homeowners in the neighborhood.
Mr. Witkowiak, public safety and crime must be a matter of concern for anyone representing this district. What will you do to ensure the safety of constituents and to reduce crime on our neighborhoods? How will you work with the police department and other organizations concerned about this issue?
Thank you. I've been a strong advocate for a strong police department for many, many years. I've supported every new class coming into through the police program to put more officers on the street. And I've also had the opportunity of working with many of the different captains that have been at number 2, 2nd District, which is the district that covers the 12th District, Aldermanic District, 2nd Police District. And we have a captain there now that is very sensitive to the needs of the Latinos and is working very well with us in all of the different programs. I also want to say I'm endorsed by the Milwaukee Police Association because of my strong record for promoting public safety and getting enough funds to the police so they can properly do their jobs on the street. Crime will always be a problem. If somebody's going to say that you put a cop on every corner, crime's going to happen in the middle of the block. They're working smarter than they ever did before, and we see the crime rate being reduced in our neighborhood, which is very good news for our constituents.
What will be your plan, Mr. Perez?
Well, I want to applaud the work that the men and women of the Milwaukee Police Department do. I think they put their lives on the line, and I think it's very important work. And I work with them as a block watch captain, but I also think that the only crime that's gone down is the crime that's been reported. And we have lots of people in our neighborhood that either don't call the police because of the response times or because they just are afraid to call. And so I want to really have some very focused conversations between the community and police and bridge that gap. The work they do is too important, and our citizens want and need to feel safer about the crime in the neighborhood, and they don't at this moment.
Mr. Perez, we'll give you 30 seconds to each of you since the time has been extended for saying for what reasons our audience should decide that you are the best candidate for this position.
Well, I think I have the communication and the education and the experience coming into this position to create the change and that's needed in our community. I want to be an advocate and I want to be engaged in this community, be a tool for change. Y le quiero dar las gracias a mi comunidad por recibirme en las puertas y dejarles saber que voy a representar con dignidad y respeto a esta comunidad.
Gracias. Mr. Witkowiak.
Thank you very much. I have a very strong record of representing this neighborhood with a lot of integrity and a lot of respect. This is the most ethnically diverse neighborhood in the city. We're talking about the Hispanic show, but this is if you look at the demographics, we have a large number of Native Americans, we have a large number of Asians, and we have a large number of African Americans. I've done an excellent job over the years of balancing this group of people, balancing the interests of the people to make sure that everybody's properly represented. And I also want to say, that the 12th district it's the fastest improving neighborhood in the city of Milwaukee, and that didn't happen by accident. It's 20 years worth of hard work, planting good seeds, and helping them grow. And I plan to continue that when reelected.
Mr. Witkowiak, thank you very much for joining us on Adelante.
Thank you.
Mr. Perez, I appreciate your accepting our invitation. Thank you to both. A los candidatos les agradecemos el haber aceptado nuestra invitación y a ustedes, nuestra audiencia, les damos las gracias por sintonizar Adelante y les recordamos que es importante que participen en las próximas elecciones que se llevarán a cabo el próximo 3 de abril. Y al final de un programa más de Adelante, por favor déjenos saber sus comentarios en nuestro teléfono 297-7544 o escríbanos a nuestra dirección de correo electrónico en adelante@matc.edu. Y visítenos en nuestro sitio del internet en mptv.org y en Facebook. Sintonícenos en Milwaukee Public Television, canales 10.1 y 36.2 todos los martes a las 6:30 de la tarde y en canal 36.1 los miércoles a las 12:30 de la medianoche y los domingos a las 5:30 de la tarde. En Wisconsin Public Television, WPT 38.2 los martes a las 6 de la tarde y los jueves a la 1 de la mañana. Y en MPTV VM 10.3 los viernes a las 6:30 de la tarde y los domingos a las 6:30 de la mañana. Soy Patricia Gomez, gracias por acompañarnos.